The Minnesota Vikings are traveling across the pond this weekend to take on the New York Jets. So, coming up on today's show, my official Week 5 preview where we can see the Minnesota Vikings potentially move the 5-0 on the season. Right now, the bookmakers out west have the spread at in favor of the Vikings, but just at 3 points. I think that's a little disrespectful, and I'll explain my thoughts there in a second. But before we dive into the preview, you guys need to make sure you are subscribed to the channel. And shout out to all 2,200 people who hit that sub button last week. I put the goal of hitting 33K before kickoff, and we got right up to it. So if you guys haven't already, help us reach 34K before the Vikings take on the Jets this weekend, and hit that subscribe button. All right, so what's coming up on today's preview? We're going to first dive into a deep dive into the New York Jets. What have they done this season? You know, who are a couple of their key players? And then also some injury news. T.J. Hockenson, Ivan Pace, could they be returning for this Week 5 matchup? Then I also got my keys to victory. How do the Vikings move the 5-0 and celebrate 5 straight victory Mondays? Then I'll close today's show with my score prediction, as I think it's going to be a beatdown in London, but I'll save that for the tail half of today's video. But let's take a look at what the Jets did so far. So they started off Week 1, went to the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football, lost that football game 32-19, and just broad analysis of that game, it was just two different, levels of football team. Like, we saw a Super Bowl contender in the Niners, and we saw a fringe playoff team, in my opinion, in the Jets. And then they followed that up, got a victory in Tennessee over the Titans 27-24. And then they followed that up Thursday night against the New England Patriots, won that football game 24-3. But then this past weekend, it was a disaster for the Jets. They lost to the Denver Broncos at home, where the Denver Broncos starting quarterback Bo Nix had about 66 yards on the day. But they ended up losing that game 10-9. But, the two main focal points of this Jets team are Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. Now, they were heading into the season, hopefully, these two guys will be top 5 at their respective positions. However, that hasn't been the case to start the year. Garrett Wilson, only 20 receptions, 191 yards, and a touchdown on the season. But this is the shocker for Jets fans. Breece Hall, 56 carries, only 174 yards, 3.1 yards per carry. I'll tell you what, I drafted him for my fantasy team this year, and he's been a disappointment. But the Jets offense, they're trying to get these two the ball, and it really all revolves around those two. But with them struggling, that's a big reason why the Jets offense hasn't been, playing up to their standard. Like yards per game, 24th in the league. Pass yards per game, 19th at only 203 per game. And then they haven't been able to run the ball. And that is key here, as rush yards per game at 91.5. That ranks 27th in the NFL. And then also points per game, only 19. That's 20th. And then third down percentage, you got to give credit to Rodgers for that one, 46.3% there. But, a big reason why they haven't been able to run the ball is their offensive line has struggled, specifically in the interior. Now, the PFF grade's actually grayed out better than I think they actually played. But, they do have a rookie right tackle, Olu Fashanu, who they took, I believe, at pick 11 when the Vikes traded up with them. But they also got Tyron Smith. He's having a pretty good year. Elijah Vera Tucker's solid, but specifically that left guard, John Simpson. The Vikings should try to take advantage of him. He has been terrible in pass protection. I think he can line Van Ginkel, Grenard up over that spot and really cause some havoc. But Rodgers actually talked to media after the loss to the Denver Broncos, and, frustration is definitely setting in. And he said this was kind of the buzz quote. He says, when your defense holds them to 10, you've got to win the game 100% of the time. That's on the offense. That's on me. Not good enough. And then also after the game, Robert Saleh, he was talking to media, and he said, because the Jets had a ton of offensive line penalties, a lot of false starts, and he blamed it on the cadence. And then Aaron Rodgers followed that up by blaming that on accountability, kind of taking a shot at his head coach. So Rodgers, I'm not saying he is a cooked product from once he once was, but he is nowhere near that same guy. Like, he does not have the same mobility. When he has a clean pocket and he can get the ball out on time and on target, he is still a very, very elite quarterback. But that's not what he's done this season. And keep your eyes on this right here, the touchdown to interception ratio. I feel like Rodgers, as he's entered the last kind of 3 years of his career here, he is focused so much on that I actually think it's hurting his play. Because the old Aaron Rodgers, back in his prime in 2010 to 2015, he would just spin the ball all over the lot, giving his receivers 50-50 chances. That's not necessarily who he is. Now, let's get to the Jets defense here, because I know they do rank out pretty well. Yards per game, second in the league, 279. Pass yards per game, 128. That's first in the NFL. Rush yards per game, 128.5. That's actually 20th. That's where they are beatable. Points per game ended up shaking out top 6, and the third down percentage, top 12. But, when you talk about the Jets defense, you got to talk about the studs they have. And, they got one at each level. Sauce Gardner, top 6'5" cornerback in the league. I actually do think he's a little overrated, as some people think he's an undisputed best cornerback in the league. I hope the Jets leave him one-on-one with Justin Jefferson. But this man right here, Quinnen Williams, he is a monster. He will wreck the game. He's on that same level as Dexter Lawrence. And as we know, number 97 for New York had a massive game against us in week 1. But then you also have Quincy Williams, his brother at the linebacker position. These are all three of the best players at their respective positions. But it gets me to this take. The Jets roster is extremely front heavy, and that's why I think this is a terrible matchup for New York and a great matchup for Minnesota. If you just take away their top 10 players and you don't allow them to absolutely game wreck, they don't have anything behind them. Like, if you take away Garrett Wilson, you take away Breece Hall, they don't have that second gear or that second, go-to offensively and especially defensively. Like, if you're able to dominate Sauce Gardner and 18's, able to, really take advantage of that matchup. Like, I'm not nervous about the Vikings moving the ball or also stopping the Jets offense from moving the ball this weekend. But you guys let me know here early on today's show, who you got? Give me a V for the Vikings or give me a J for the Jets down in the comment section. I'll make this the pinned comment. So if YouTube throws an ad break your way, sit back, let it play, and let me know who you got. Let's talk about some injury news here. So T.J. Hockenson, could he be returning this week? I'm going to lean to the side of a no. So he is eligible to return, as he is coming off PUP list after missing the first 4 weeks, still recovering from that torn ACL from last season. But how I would play the Hawk situation, if T.J. Hockenson is not clearly 100%, he shouldn't even travel to London. Like, even if he is 99.9999% healthy, I'm still not having him travel. It's a shaky playing turf over there. And plus, with the bye next week and then the Lions week 7 after the bye, I'd rather just keep him on ice, have him be 110% ready to go for that week 7 game versus the Lions. And plus, his replacements, his backups have been playing well this year. Like Josh Oliver, he's been great in the run blocking department, really has. I already thought he was the best run blocking tight end in the league heading into this year, but now I feel like the common NFL fans kind of getting on that curve. Then Johnny Munt, he had a couple of good games the past couple of weeks, 7 receptions, 44 yards, and a touchdown for him. But, I'm not too worried about T.J. Hockenson missing this week. But a guy who the Vikings should be getting back is actually Ivan Pace Jr. Kevin O'Connell talked to media a couple of days ago, and he said he is very optimistic he would be out there. They proceeded on the side of caution against the Green Bay Packers. So Pace should be out there, and that just adds another level to this linebacking crew. Blake Cashman, Pace, they've been awesome. But shout out to Grugier Hill, man. 2 interceptions and 2 starts, had 5 pass breakups as well. He has been elite in coverage. And I was watching the all-22 on his interception of Jordan Love. It was just an absolutely nasty read. Like, he didn't bite on the, fake route, and he kind of peeled it off, got back to the in-breaking route, and he made a hell of a play on the football. But, with the Vikings starting off 4-0, injuries are definitely a way this season can get derailed. So if you guys want the Vikes to stay healthy all season long, hit that thumbs up icon, like today's video. Let's see if we can get the 500 likes and get them good mojo heading our way for this Vikings team. Now, coming up next, keys to victory. How do the Vikings celebrate 5 straight victory Mondays? Tell you guys that here in a second. But first off, I want to tell you guys about today's presenting sponsor. That is Game Time. If you guys download the Game Time app, create an account and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Now, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Now, my favorite feature of the Game Time app is the Views from Your Seat feature, which lets you get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you even buy. And Game Time also has their lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Key to victory number 1 for me. Take away the 2 guys we talked about to start today's show, Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. Now, the whole Jets offense, from what I have seen on film over the first 4 weeks, if these two are not open, you will be very successful. Like if Aaron Rodgers doesn't have that first read to Garrett Wilson, he's trying to replicate what he had with Devontae Adams, and that worked back in the day. But with Garrett Wilson, in my opinion, not even being close to who Devontae Adams was, and Aaron Rodgers not being close to who he once was, it's just not a good offensive, mindset out there. And plus, Breece Hall, if you're not able to run the ball and the Vikings can get this team in the 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and long, they should be very, very successful. So, my hot take here, and I'll wait to give my score prediction here in a second, but I think this Vikings defense is going to have a bounce-back game from giving up 29 points versus Green Bay Packers. I think they're going to take away Breece, they're going to take away Garrett Wilson, and I think it is going to be a dominant performance for this defense. Now, I do want to highlight another Jets running back, Braylon Allen, rookie out of Wisconsin, 6'1", 235 pounds. He has been running hard, and I do think if there's a style of running back that can be successful on the Vikings, it's that big, physical, bruising running back, and he's already gone for 4.8 yards per carry this season. But if Rodgers isn't throwing the ball to Garrett Wilson, he's going to be looking at Mike Williams and Allen Lazard. Now, Mike Williams, nowhere near who he once was. Allen Lazard, nowhere near to who he once was. It's kind of the theme with this Jets team. They have a bunch of players out of their prime trying to make it work, but these two haven't really done much this year. Yes, Lazard's found the end zone 3 times, but am I really worried about him beating Shaq Griffin, beating Byron Murphy in one-on-one coverage? Absolutely not. So you take away Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, and this defense should be very, very successful. Now, number 2 for me, this isn't even like a key to victory. This is just let the game play out. This is the biggest coaching mismatch in the NFL this season, and this is honestly the biggest coaching mismatch I have ever seen covering the NFL. Robert Saleh, Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive and defensive play caller for the New York Jets. They are 2 of the worst in the National Football League. And with what we have with the Minnesota Vikings, in Kevin O'Connell, in Brian Flores, it should be a bloodbath out there this weekend. And I will say this point, I have not seen a defensive coordinator like Brian Flores get this much love in a very long time. I always feel like it's the offensive guys that they're getting all the praise, they're getting the interviews, and it's pretty cool to see a defensive guy in Flores, get that same respect. But number 3 for me, you knew was coming back. Win the turnover battle, because the famous chat stats live on, as the Vikings last week won the turnover battle versus the Green Bay Packers, and that moved them to 21-0 when they tie or win the turnover battle under Kevin O'Connell. I think if you are, at the bar, at the barbershop, at the lunch table, trying to make an argument with your friends on why Kevin O'Connell's a great coach, just tell them this stat. This is the best, point of data, in my opinion, to, prove that KOC is a great coach. So win the turnover battle, and you should be all right. But let's get to this one. And this is one I'm probably most excited about, because I think Justin Jefferson, he's had a slow start to the year by his standards, and, his stats are ridiculous for a slow start. He's gotten a touchdown in every game, 20 receptions, 358 yards, but he hasn't really had that 10-reception, 175-yard game where he goes for 2 or 3 touchdowns, where it really is the Justin Jefferson game. I think the Jets are going to be idiotic this weekend and leave Sauce Gardner one-on-one with number 18. My message to you, Kevin O'Connell, you take advantage of it. You get this man 15, 16 targets if that is the game plan from New York. But I could see the Jets having a little too much confidence in Sauce, and then number 18 having a great day. But number 5 for me, dominate the trenches. Now, this is something I've been kind of hinting at on the show over the last couple of weeks. But, if the Vikings want to be a Super Bowl team, they got to be a physical team. And it starts with the offensive line and establishing a run game, because this Jets defense is good, but they're susceptible in the run game. So I'm looking at Darisaw, Brandell, Bradbury, Ingram, O'Neal. Let's get downhill. Let's keep these guys happy, and let's get Aaron Jones, 25, 30 touches this weekend and have him run for $150, because that gets me to this. Super Bowl teams are physical teams, like the Chiefs over the past couple of years, the Niners over the last couple of years. Take the Lions, for example. They're a very physical football team. That wins later on in the year. When it gets colder, when teams are more beat up, normally, the more physical team is the one that ends up winning. Now, the Vikings are going to have to match this dude's physicality. Quinnen Williams, he is a problem. He's just that prototypical, 3 tech that's just going to, they will split him out wide a little bit. So, but again, I'm not worried about him going against Darisaw and O'Neal. I'm more worried about him going against Ingram. Now, that's the only way where I think defensively a player on the Jets can, wreck this game. But again, I still got confidence. So you guys let me know. Predict the score for me. I'll give you guys mine here in a second of the London game. Week 5, Vikings versus Jets. I'm going to do your score prediction down below. I got a beatdown coming from the New York Jets. I got the Vikings winning 31-6. I think the spread is disrespectful. Minus 3 points. I think it should be minus 7.5, and I would still hammer the Vikings. So I got 31-6. I think the defense is going to shut out Aaron Rodgers. He's going to get sacked 5+ times. And I just think the Vikings, be 14-3 at half, and then they'll finish it off 31-6. But that's what I got. I think it's going to be a bloodbath this weekend. But hey, if you guys want to give me a follow on Twitter, that's a handle right there. At Pat Sieps, give me a follow over there. I'll give you guys a follow right back. But see you guys next time. Let's go Vikes.